absolutely needs no introduction. He has served in the U.S. Congress since 1993 as the Congressman from the 3rd Congressional District. Please welcome to the stage our Congressman, your Congressman, Congressman Bobby Scott.
Thank you, Governor. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's an honor to be here with each and every one of you on this day of healing. The need for healing is clear, both here in Virginia and across the nation. For that reason, I especially want to thank Superintendent Brown and all of the organizers for hosting this gathering, and the special guests who have shared or who will share their thoughts, reflections, memories, culture, and wisdom to our proceedings. We're often called to focus on the most immediate tasks, our responsibilities at school, at work, or at home. This weekend has provided an opportunity for each of us to gather and to step back and to reflect on the journey of Africans and African Americans and their challenges and contributions to our nation. The sequence of events that happened here at Fort Monroe demonstrate the road towards justice is not always direct. It was the enslaved men, descendants of the 20-odd Africans who were leased by their owners to the Army and who built this fort in the early 1880s. But 40 years later, after the fort was constructed, this was the place where Frank Baker, James Townsend, and Shepard Mallory bravely sought asylum. And it was here that Union General Benjamin Butler explained to the slave owners who came to reclaim their slaves, he explained to them the law of war that said that so you could keep property that you have acquired from your enemy, like rifles and ammunition, as contrabands of war. Then he said that since the slave owners considered their slaves property, he was declaring that they were contrabands of war and he would not return them. They were essentially free. Word got out. Word got out, and it wasn't long before tens of thousands were able to escape the bondage of slavery during the Civil War by coming to this sacred place which would become known as Freedom's Fortress. History that has happened here reminds us that, as it said, the arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But they also say that it doesn't bend itself. And therefore, we have here with us today representatives of the Mid-40 Years of African American History Commission. They're here today. That was created by the vision and leadership of Senator Tim Kaine, and we know that one of their responsibilities is to determine the present effects of centuries of slavery and racial discrimination laws, and we cannot heal until we have recognized and corrected those present effects. Present effects like wage and wealth disparities, education disparities, health care, and the criminal justice system. And we just can't complain about it. I've been at meetings where they have a problem, they spend the whole meeting talking about the problem. They got a name for it. They call it celebrating the problem. After they've celebrated the problem, they go home. Not the first solution. We can't do that. We have to deal with the problems like wage and wealth inequality. We have legislation pending in Congress now to significantly increase the minimum wage. We have wealth disparity. We have legislation to increase home ownership, the one place where most middle-class families have most of their wealth. We have legislation in education. The Supreme Court told us back in 1954 that even if schools were technically equal, if they were segregated, they were not equal. They were inherently unequal. and we know they're not even equal. And unfortunately, we have seen a regression of resegregation of our schools to the point where schools are segregated now as they were in the 1960s. We know that there's legislation pending to fix that, enhancing the powers under Title VI, and making sure that the localities have the wherewithal where they can, if they want, to reintegrate the schools. We know that access to college is important to wage and wealth. The Higher Education Act, when it was signed by President Johnson in 1965, President Johnson said that this legislation means that any student in any state can apply to any college and university and not be turned away because the family is poor. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case, because the Pell Grant back then covered 75% of the cost of education, now only 25%. And students are forced to take on excruciating debt. There's legislation that will consider that will significantly increase Pell Grants and reduce the need for student loans. We know in health disparities that the Obamacare did a lot to increase the ability of African Americans to get access to health care. And we know that General Assembly did a momentous job with the support of our governor and Lieutenant Governor, who had to cast many tie-breaking votes to expand Medicaid. That will be a significant increase of access to health care to the African American community and to all communities. We know we have a choice in criminal justice. We can codify a bunch of slogans and sound bites, or we can actually follow the evidence and research, reduce crime, and save money. Unfortunately, we've gone to slogans and sound bites, and we know that the only thing that's done is mass incarceration with a discriminatory effect. We need to focus on prevention, early intervention, and rehabilitation to make sure that we can reduce crime, save money, and end mass incarceration. So as we reflect on the last 400 years, let us commit to constructively address the present effects of those years of slavery and racial discrimination laws so that we can continue to move forward together with strength, courage, wisdom, and resolve of our ancestors, and so that we can continue to build a more perfect union. Thank you very much.